Welcome to Op Manager Plus training. Today, we will talk about how Op Manager Plus can help you to monitor the network parameters of the network devices. Let us start talking about the SNMP trap processors. So all the traps which you forward from your network devices can be passed and converted into meaningful alerts using SNMP trap processors. So it's all about the SNMP OID. The trap OID, you would have to forward that from the network devices. First, let's see how to enable the trap processing. So this is the trap port number. The default port number is 162. You can add any additional ports if you wish, and enable the trap processing. Once the trap processors is enabled, select the devices from which you wanted to listen the trap from and save this. So from now on, the traps would be received to the Op Manager destination IP address on port 162. To view the traps which is coming in, you can see the trap viewer, and this is the place where you would be able to see the live traps which is forwarded from the network devices. To add any new traps as a processor, you can add them manually or you can load them from MIBs as well. So the MIBs are the one which you get from the vendors, and probably you can load the MIBs in the Op Manager installed directory under the folder called MIBs. You copy them and paste it there under the MIBs folder. It will automatically be loaded. When you click on add, let's see how to create a trap processor. You can provide the name for the processor. You will have to provide the trap OID, which you would get it from the MIB or from the web or from the vendor. And once the trap OID is all set, you will be able to choose the match criteria and select which part of the message have to be matched to convert them into meaningful alerts, and those are from the webvines. Let us talk about webvines now. You can select the match criteria based on the trap message. So each trap message can be divided into webvines, and if you wanted to match an exact webvine, say for example, this is an example of a trap message. This trap message is divided into multiple variable bindings. Say this is the webvine number 1, this is another webvine, this is another webvine, and this is another webvine. So I've just differentiated the webvines right here. The webvine 1 is here, the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Let's say for example, the webvine 6 has a content, a word called critical. So in the entire message, I want only if the word called critical is available in the trap message, thus I wanted to go ahead and then create as a message. Only when the word called critical is available in this trap message, I wanted to convert that as an alert. If that is my priority, then I would select webvine 6 equals critical. And at the same time, if I want the same trap message to be cleared, I would just check on the trap message and I would look forward for the word at the webvines and use the same in the rearm criteria. Let's say here is the same trap message, but the webvine 6 has a different text. It's called major right here in the webvine 6. But I just wanted to make sure whenever there is a priority in the webvine 6 called low, I want them to be cleared automatically. So I would just go ahead and then choose the same 6th webvine right here equals something called low in it. I would want it to go ahead and then clear that particular alert. This is how I create a trap processor manually with the help of the match criterias. If I wanted to load that from MIBs, I can just click on load from MIBs, and then the loaded MIBs would be readily available right here. We can just go ahead and then just select the MIB file, and then all the trap processors would be listed by the vendor itself. Select those processors and click save. You would be able to have the processor readily imported that quick. This is the method to monitor the traps from the network devices. Next, let's talk about the syslog rules. Syslog rules are for the firewall devices. You will have to forward your syslog messages on port number 514 or 519. So any other customized ports can be added, and then probably you can save the same. So when you forward the syslogs on this port number, you would be able to receive all the syslogs, and you can create a new rule provided what type of facility that falls into, what is the severity, and what is the content which you want to match in the message, and then the severity of the alert which you want to raise, and save the same. So by this, when this is matched in the syslogs which is coming in from the firewalls, it would be generated as alerts. So this is on the Op Manager module. You might be a little bit wondered right now. I've already forwarded the syslog messages to get the firewall log analysis. So the firewall log analysis which you sent on port number 1514 earlier is to check on the firewall details exclusively on the bandwidth, on the rule management, on the rule administration, on the VPN sessions, and much more information which we will discuss in later point of. But this syslog rules is just to create alerts if that syslog falls from the firewall to the Op Manager server. Alright, next let's talk about the network path analysis, another way to check how that particular destination is responding from the Op Manager installed server. It can be any of the destination on any port which it runs on. Let's say I have got created one path for the google.com. Let's say I would wanted to check from the local device in different hops it takes to reach to the destination, and what is the time taken for one hop to another hop. And if at all there is a drop, you would be able to very well identify which hop has a drop in package, what is the transit likelihood, what is the latency from one hop to another hop is what you will be able to identify. It can be any website, any in-house applications, or anything which runs on a specific port number. You can provide the IP address of the port number, or the website, or the URL, or the port number, and you would be able to identify how the latency is and how the packet loss of that particular path behaves. Alright. Next, we will talk about IPSLA. IPSLA is all about your WAN and VoIP. So here you will be able to add your VoIP monitors, making sure that you provide the name for the VoIP monitor, and you get the source device from which router, which interface, and what is the source port, what is the destination port you wanted to look at, what is the display name you look forward, and then save, and that would help you. It has to be a Cisco router, and you would be able to have a VoIP monitor which can help you monitor your latency, mean opinions, code jitter, packet loss, router time, and much more. And if it's a WAN monitor, you can add your WAN monitor, and you will be able to select the source device, and that has to be again a Cisco router with an IPSLA responder enabled, and destination IP with the display name, and you would be able to get the WAN monitor details ready. Next, we'll talk about the network is on the interface monitoring. As you all know, interface monitoring can be of two methods. One is monitoring the interfaces through SNMP, another is an in-depth monitoring of interfaces with the help of flow technologies. Let's take a router. So here you see the interfaces, a dedicated tab for the interfaces where you would see all the interfaces which is listed down right here. And these interfaces are monitored in the Op Manager module with SNMP protocol, and it helps you to identify the receive traffic, transmit traffic, and the current polling state is right here. The power of Op Manager Plus is a comprehensive, tightly integrated tool where you would be able to see the data of that particular interface in terms of SNMP details, with the graphs, and you would also be able to see the respective interface traffic with the flow as well in the same UI. So you could see the traffic, the application level details, top source, destination, top QoS, and much more information of this particular interface you would be able to gain in detail. For device level information, you have a NetFlow dedicated tab which would talk to you about the device level information of traffic and bandwidth with the help of application level data, top source, destination, top QoS, top conversation from this device. And that is how you see the NetFlow data as well. In case if you wanted to dive deep and also check much more information, You can always jump into flow analysis, the same device of that particular interface, you can jump in and you would be able to see the same data right here for different time period. You can see the traffic data, you can see the application data, you can see the source, you can see the destination. You would be also able to see the QoS and conversation of that respective interface from the flow as well. So you would be able to see those conversation, QoS policies, destination, source and application. So here you might be having a question right now. So there are applications which might show as unknown application. So how do we map all these applications? We do have a repository to map more than 10,000 plus applications and port numbers. So based on that, we would be able to classify those or categorize those applications right here and show you how much of traffic that has been used in that particular interface. But there are cases where you can see that as unknown application. And for that, we have to make sure you will have your raw data enabled. So we will have to go to the settings. Under the NetFlow, you will be able to see the storage settings. Here, if the raw data is enabled and then for a certain period of time, however, you want the raw data to be enabled, and you will be able to see that particular information of that respective application, and you would now be able to see show ports. So when you click on the show ports, it would let you know what is the source, destination protocol, source port, destination port, and how much of traffic that is being. So based on that information, we can go ahead and then add the mapping manually. So that is more helpful because there are unknown applications where we might not have those ports and applications mapped in the repository. Probably that might be an in-house applications in your organization. So we can just go ahead and then show the port right here and go ahead and then get that mapping ready. So to manually map much more information from the NetFlow, you also will be able to do the mappings right here from the application. Any in-house applications, probably you can just manually add a new application, that respective port protocol, save them, and if that port protocol has a traffic in your interface, we can capture that through the flow and show them in the application level. So this is how you would be able to get the complete view of the device traffic and bandwidth information from the same UI itself. You would be able to get the NetFlow traffic data, you can get your interface data, you get the summary of that, and you also get the monitors which is of your performance metrics through SNMP. You also will be able to get the NCM data in the same page where we have enabled the NCM discovery earlier. You will be able to see the configuration changes which was done, what is the config details, how the change trend is, what is the difference between your startup and running configurations or baseline configurations, what are the firmware vulnerabilities listed on this particular device, and checking on the compliance policy of that particular device. Everything under one single roof. It is again not needed that you've got to jump in from a different places. You would be able to see them all information right under the same device, under the same UI from the network tab. To know more on what or how these configuration changes have to be scheduled, how the backup have to be done, you can get down to the config management tab and you would be able to get to that respective device and you will be able to see those device information. So you can directly SSH that device rather using a third-party tool to get into the device to make changes. Click right here and then it would have you logged into that device. So first, for this to happen, you will have to provide the credentials of the device. So just make sure you create a new credential and then you would have to associate that profile. Let's say you create a new profile. What protocol that particular device uses, either it's an SSH, Telnet or TFTP based protocols. So apart from the SNMP you use to discover the router in the App Manager, you will have to provide the CLI credentials to take the backup. So provide the credentials right here, save them, and you would be able to have the backups running immediately. So immediately after the credentials are successful, you would start receiving the firmware vulnerability information where it is being reported, and you would see the inventory information of that device, what are the interface details, about the hardware information, the backup summary of how that has been backed up so far. So how do you back the device? How do you back up the device is the first question. So we can back up the device in three modes. One is you can just choose actions backup. Immediately a backup would be triggered and you would be able to see that the backup is triggered and you would wait for the backup to complete. So this is an on-demand backup. It will immediately create whenever needed. And there is another method where you would be able to schedule the backup as well. So now you could see that the backup is successful. Now you can also schedule the backup or you can do a real-time change detection based backup. So let me tell you about how do you create a backup based on the schedule. So you can go to the schedule and then create a new schedule for the backup. So where you can just name the schedule, say it's a daily schedule. And after configuration backup, either we have grouped the devices like in App Manager, we've grouped the devices. In NCM as well, you can group those devices and keep it ready. Or based on an individual device, we will have to select them and then we say when do we want that to be backed up. So every day at 9 o'clock in the evening, it needs to back up. Let's save that. So once the backup can be scheduled and it will help you to take a backup at then and there at that respective time. There is another method where you can just enable the change detection method as well. So where you can enable the syslog change detection method by enabling the syslog commands on the device. There is a preset syslog commands which would be there on the template of the NCM. So those syslog commands will be executed on the device and NCM, the Op Manager Plus, would listen to those syslog messages whenever there is a change happen on the device. It is like whenever someone have logged out of the device, so we would receive the exit syslog message when someone logs out of the device. So based on the exit syslog message, we would be initiating a backup automatically. And we would be able to have them saved right here. So here you could see both the startup and the running configuration will be backed up. Each and every configuration will have a version. So we tag the version number based on the change with the previous backup taken. If there is a change when compared to the previous backup is found, then we append that with a new version. So if there is no change when compared to the previous version, that latest backup which we have taken will be discarded. So you could see the running config, startup config, what is the latest version, and what is the conflict which is detected between your startup and running config, and the baseline and the running conflict. So baseline configuration is nothing but the configuration which you trust that's the baseline of the product itself. So if at any point of time, if you want to revert back to the original or the base or the baseline configuration, you can just go ahead and then do that. So that is when you select this particular configuration as a baseline configuration. So when you select a configuration, you would be able to see the entire configuration right here. And you can see the difference with the previous version, difference with the baseline version. So if this version which was taken right now wants to be your baseline configuration, you can just set them as a baseline configuration. So any new backups which you take will be checked against this latest version. So this is where you would be able to check the previous and the current ones. Any lines modified, deleted, added. So we could see that these are the new lines which is added when compared to the previous version. So here you can just check with two different devices of two different types. Either you can check with running against running of the same device or different device, or running against startup or startup against startup, and much more. You can just play around this and you would be able to check the configuration difference between two configuration backups taken. So here you would be able to see the change type. So unauthorized changes or authorized changes. So what does this unauthorized or authorized changes mean? So any changes which is done using the NCM tool, meaning from the terminal which is accessed from the NCM tool, will be considered to be an authorized change. So any change which is done from a third party tool, and after that you take a backup that seems to be or taken as an unauthorized changes, and very well you will be able to go ahead and authorize those changes as well. So you can do that. So that becomes your authorized changes. So this is how you would be able to do the backup of your configurations and check the difference against your configurations. So when we talk about the compliance check of your network devices, so here you would be able to see the compliance. So based on the type of the device, the policy which is available by default would be associated. So as this seems to be a Cisco device, Cisco's iOS policy is automatically associated. So against this device, you can run a compliance policy and you would be able to see the device policy violations, the rules which is already compliant on these devices. So this is a Cisco iOS policy which is generally available. Probably you want to create your own policies based on your organization's requirement. You can very well go ahead and then do that from your NCM settings. Under the compliance, you can create a new policy by creating a new rules. First, you will have to create new rules, like as you see right here. You can create a new rule, and then multiple rules have to be tagged together as a rule group. So once the rule groups are ready, then you can create policies by creating multiple rule groups. So when you create a policy, let's say it's my own in-house policy, and you will be able to see against what configuration type you will have to check, and then policy violation criteria is any rule in the policy, or only the critical or the major rule on the policy is violated. And then here is where I would be able to see all my rule groups. So select the rule groups which you have created and then put them together into one single compliance policy. So you can just check your custom policy against devices in your organization as well. So then you have a feature here in NCM called configlets where you can create a snippet of the commands and then push them towards your devices and get the response out of it. So you wanted to back up an image, or you wanted to check the BGP neighbors, or any commands which you generally use on a network device to check something, show commands, or you wanted to, you wanted to go ahead and then apply some configuration on those devices also. Probably you can create a new configuration, either a simple mode or an advanced mode or a file transfer mode, which can be used to upgrade your firmwares as well. So you can create, say I wanted to create a SNMP to the devices, multiple devices. So I just wanted to get into the config mode and then set SNMP community, and then probably I would be able to set SNMP community public, and then I wanted to write and then exit. So I can create a snippet and then probably save them, and then after this I can just push them to multiple devices and check, and I can just also go ahead and then I can push this configured this configuration commands which I wanted to execute in multiple devices. I can do that. So this is how you get to check the traffic, the bandwidth information of the network device, also about the compliance and the configuration of the devices as well. Next, we'll talk about how the network information on traffic and bandwidth can be shown for your firewalls which you've added using a syslogs. So from the network tab, you've got firewall log analysis and all the firewalls which are added already using your syslogs. Just click on them, and the first tab you would be able to find the traffic information. Also, you would be able to get the bandwidth information with the help of your syslogs on the live traffic, about the incoming traffic and the outgoing traffic as well. So that's how you would be able to check the entire network performance of Op Manager. Thank you for watching. Let's talk about in detail on how you can work with your firewalls in the next session.